Cat and Loggy.
Good morning, it's 4 minutes past 7. Welcome to Wednesday. It's Tom, Lingy and Loggy. Lingy joins us in the studio. G'day, mate.
Good morning, Tommy. Good morning, Log.
Hi.
Great to see both of you. I brought someone in today. If that
Yes.
I hope you didn't mind me doing that.
No, we're pumped. We're glad to welcome to the studio your good mate.
Yes, Matthew Stokes is with us. Stokesy.
Thank you all. Thank
Great
you.
to see you, mate.
Thanks for the coffee, Cameron.
That's all right.
Hang on a minute.
Hang on.
Hang on. He told you to say that, didn't he, Stokesy?
Yeah, he did. He's my old captain. I have to listen to
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
Lingy hasn't been too good on the coffee shouts of late, and that's why he's shouting everyone breakfast.
Hey,
next week.
stop making up stories to Stokesy. He'll believe it. Come on.
As a former captain, did he ever sort of put money on the bar, or did he ever put, put a tab on for the team? Any of that gear you remember?
Be careful, Matthew.
well, as a captain, I think, and also to owning a couple of bars, he probably didn't have a choice. We just go to the bartender and says he's paying. So,
Yeah.
No matter how many times I put a photo of like Stokesy and Stevie and all those guys at the front door and said, "Do not let this man in," somehow they just kept coming in.
If it makes you feel better, Stokesy, I used to go up to the bar and say, "Oh yeah, Cameron Ling," and I'm no one, and they just used to give me free drinks. So once
You're
you-
welcome, Log.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Stokesy, look, it's great to have you in the studio. You're a busy man, so we really appreciate you coming in. We're talking Reconciliation Week this week. It is a big week right around the country, but particularly here in Geelong. You're getting involved with Geelong Arts Centre, a big event happening this coming Saturday. We'll talk more about that after Good Charlotte Dance Floor Anthem, K-Rock 955. Tom, Lingy and Loggy, we do it for Mimosa Homes. Good morning. Tom, Lingy, Loggy, we do it for Mimosa Homes. 18-month price freeze means no surprises. You get that peace of mind with a builder you can trust. We are joined in the studio by former Cats and, more importantly, former Bombers champion, Matthew Stokes.
thank you.
Forgot to mention they're both Bombers supporters.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yep.
Proud Larrakia man, living on Wathaurong country.
Yep.
And you are part of an event. It is Reconciliation Week this week, but you're part of an event called Cultural Conversations happening this Saturday. Be a voice for generations. Act today for a reconciled tomorrow. As I say, it's at the Geelong Arts Centre. It's sort of a group thing that's happening, and there's conversations around reconciliation and way we can sort of bring that into every day, into our lives, which is great. And tickets are available now. People can go along. It's Saturday Arvo. We were talking to you off air. We got started talking. We thought, hey, but let's talk about this on air because the big thing at the moment is the voice to Parliament, the conversation, the referendum coming up, and I feel like there's not a lot of information floating around.
Yep, so do I.
You're the same.
Yep.
Lingy, you made a good point that there's not a lot of neutral information.
Yeah, just pure information, Stokesy. I mean, there's strong information on the yes side, strong information on the no side, and in both cases, some respected voices lending their voice to the voice. So I didn't mean to say it like that. But just that pure information. What do you see rolling out? Is it a good thing? Is it something that we need more information on? What's your take?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I look at it that I'm a young man still going through a journey of understanding not only what it's like to be an Aboriginal man, but also to living in society. We have guys and people, male, female, who have done this for a living with the policy stuff when it comes to the referendum, the constitution, and lived experiences in the politician or political world, that as a younger person, you need to support the groups that come before you and what their idea of when they gathered in Alice Springs a few years ago, they came up with this proposal that would give us a voice in Parliament. Now, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, you've sort of got to, I think I support, not lead in this position and going, yep, if this is what the people who have come before me and who have the experience and thinks that this is what's best for our people, then that's great. The bad side of that is, like you said, there's not much information out there. So then it draws the lines between the narrative of it's back against, it's us versus them again. And that's the only part where I sit as a person who just sits in the community, who plays a small part in reconciliation, who then gets the questions and it makes people uneasy. And then all of a sudden people start to, the conversation part is one way. And I think for us to get reconciliation, we need the conversations going back and forth, but we also need listening. And I think we need to hear each other. And I'm a person who firmly believes that you should be able to talk and have a different opinion to someone without it being classified as racist or discriminative in any way. So I think that open conversations is something moving forward we need.
Yeah, and that is really important. And thank you so much for being open to that, because I think a lot of people think, I have these questions, but I don't know if it's right to ask. I don't know if it's my place to ask. And with the voice, I mean, for me, I think whatever my Indigenous brothers and sisters want, I will support that. But there have been voices that have come out and said, no, this is not the right way to go about it, or not. So it leaves me in a position where it's like, I want to do the right thing by our Indigenous community, and I just want to make sure that whatever I'm voting for is what they want.
Agreed, yeah.
And so that's where it makes it a bit hard for me as well.
You'd also got to understand too, there's this notion or this thought that Aboriginal people all have the same opinions on what's right and what's
Exactly.
wrong. We are
That's the other
completely
thing.
different to
Yeah.
like we are different in this room at all four. Like
Yeah.
a footy club, we have a common goal is to win a game of football, but we all have different personalities, lived experiences, understanding what's expected, what's not. We all need a bit of a helping hand every now and again. I think with this referendum, there's a lot of people who say no that are Aboriginal, and that's okay. I don't think that's makes it any more or less important than the Yes campaign itself. I just think that shows that we're all different, and that's okay. I actually quite enjoy that we're different. Even in an Aboriginal community, we have disagreements, and we're probably harder on anyone on each other than expected out there. But I think it's a beautiful thing that we're all different.
I think where we've got to, personally anyway, in Australia, is that representation is important and everybody's voice is important. And I think that's the main thing that Loggie and I and Lingy, we want to support. And I think it's in my circle of people that I know, we want to support the opportunity to have a voice. So if this is the way it's going to happen,
Yeah.
but also you're right, it needs to be a conversation. People need to not be afraid of having questions or asking sort of for background without being labelled as racist. And yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, but it's very important to educate yourself, and those conversations can really help.
Yeah, this is not a black conversation. This is an Australian conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing to note in this is that, it's about the black community of Australia, but it's the wider community. We live in we should be very grateful of a country that we live in.
So to break on that theme that you're talking about there, to break that narrative down that you mentioned before of the us versus them and the divisive stuff, and even some of the language people are using around it is the divisive voice to Parliament, which is so emotive when you hear that. How is that narrative broken down, and it is a discussion and conversation that can take place for everyone?
Well, I think that's what happens when certain parts of the media or individuals. I think this is like I'm a really firm believer. It's like you're either a lefty or a righty, and I'm a firm believer. It's just whether you're a good person or you're not.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think sometimes when you look at community and society, we tend to focus on that really small group of people who are just not great. They're not nice people. And they're the ones that get the leverage when it comes to media or social media, and we tend not to focus on the 95 to 98% of people out there who walk down the street who just want the best for everyone else and to everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
The narrative is something that I've noticed a lot since the referendum has been brought up, and it's quite sad to see the other side of it. But at the same time, it's just a reality. Whether it's a black issue, whether it's a gay, straight issue, whether it's any issue that's out there, you're going to have that voice who tends to want to just create drama. And I think for me, I tend to focus on the good people, the fun people, and the people who just want the best for humans.
Quite often it's those loud voices that are most polarising,
Exactly
have the most
right.
extreme opinions, and they get the attention, don't they? Look, you're going to be joined by Tom Molyneux, Gerard Black, Marsha Uppel, who's wonderful, we know her well, Christine Cousins, and your good self as well, for a yarn and a chance to come together for Reconciliation Week, a panel-led discussion around the 2023 theme, Be a Voice for Generations, Act Today for a Reconciled Tomorrow. That is happening 2:30 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, geelongartscentre.org.au. If you'd like to get yourself tickets, it's going to be a wonderful event. Stokesy, do you mind hanging around and have a little cats chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
After this, we'll take a break. Carrot 955. It's Tom Lingy Loggie, joined by Maddie Stokes at 7:25.
I forgot to warn you, Stokesy. You've come in and had a chat with us about Cultural Conversations, which is coming up at GPAC this Saturday. Really appreciate that. Forgot to warn you that once you're in in here. Tommy was always going to grab you for a footy chat as well.
That's okay. Comes part and parcel, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been very involved with the Cats since you retired, on and off, and not currently involved. But what do you think of this season so far? You particularly have been involved with player development. So some of those younger guys coming through, how are they tracking?
Look, I think when you take the injury toll that we've had at the start of the year, it's always going to be a difficult and a grind. I always thought if we could get to the mid-year break at a level peckings, it would be okay leading into the end of the year. But I think sometimes what's found out is that when you do take out a group of core players at the top with high-end talent and the reliance on the middle group that are able to just sort of be able to play their role and get wins, it's a little bit different to when they're going to have to be the faces of the football club. And I think that's probably the struggle where I think they're trying to figure out where their spots are. Getting some games in these young players I think is pivotal. I think it's really important. I think we've got a really strong talented list, but it's just going to be an up and down year because of that, the injury toll, and also two players coming and going in and out of the team. So I'm not too worried. I think I've still got concerns about the consistency. I think the way that we're playing and the commitment to that is probably the one part where you go, okay, well, they're the non-negotiables. They're the ones that you should be able to see with your own eyeballs when you're watching the game of football. But I think they've got a lot of time to rectify that. But if we're thinking that we can switch it, in round 22, we're kidding ourselves. You've got to be able to go into the finals with some good footy leading into it.
I read today that a great mate of ours, Tommy Hawkins, has basically said, why not next year and into the future, which would, if all things went to plan, his body held up and he did play on, would probably make him the game's record holder, a record that we didn't think would be beaten given Joel's phenomenal record. I mean, what an achievement that would be. A bloke who weighs about 110 kilos and has had to change his game as the game evolved to be the game's record holder for the Geelong Footy Club.
For a man who loved cheeseburgers and 12s playing golf, I am astounded at what he's been able to achieve. I mean, he always had the talent, and eventually, slowly, he learned what it takes to be a professional athlete. But the best thing about Tommy is just that personality of him. I mean, he is one of the all-time greats. He reminds me very much of Otto, where it's pretty relaxed, nothing too serious. You never see him down. Always happy to be the brunt of jokes at the footy club. But I think when you get him away from the footy field, he's just a relaxed person. He's a family man, and always giving up his time for other people. I think he's an extraordinary man. But the way that he's playing, I can't see why not. He can't play another year.
Now, Stokesy, a couple of weeks ago we played dodgeball, and it was Lingy, Tom, and myself against the Drive Show and Benny. And Lingy gave us this speech, this pump up before we went in. Now, I was ready to run through a brick wall.
Yep.
Is there anything that Lingy said over the journey of him being your captain that really stuck with you, or is it just all melded into one big?
You're making
White noise, because we get a bit of that.
You're making the mistake of assuming he listened to anything I said.
Well, he couldn't listen to, because when he gets worked up, he just spits. And he just mumbles. So Lingy was very much a spitter and a mumbler. The only time I did listen to him was, I think it was my second year here, and we took out the young players to, obviously, his second home back in the day in Lammy's. And
yes.
we all had to attach ourselves to a younger player. And I don't know if he remembers this, but he did attach himself to me, which I don't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. But I did listen to him that night, because I did try to let the fire extinguisher go, or the fire hose down at Lambie's at the back. And I don't listen to too many people, as my mum and dad can attest. But I did listen to him that night. I put the fire extinguisher down.
Yes.
Right.
See, but he is the big fire extinguisher himself. So
I had one good influence through my whole career. That moment right there.
That's the only part that I remember.
Fire extinguisher on the party. That's Lingy all over.
Exactly.
All right, Stokesy, we've got to let you go. 7:30 news, Beckham. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yep. Thanks. Thanks.
All the best for Saturday afternoon. Again, it's at Geelong Arts Centre. Tom Molyneux, Gerard Black, Marsha Uppel, Christine Cousins MP, Matt Stokes, yourself, Matt Stokes. I was just reading names. For Reconciliation Week, it's going to be a great round sort of roundtable discussion. So get your tickets now at geelongartscentre.org.au. We'll catch you soon.
Tom, Lingy and Loggy on K-Rock 955.